All right, welcome back, Caldwell Park. This first time for me. If it is the first time for you, just like Navarra, expect to put in some practice here. You will not get into a session before a race and learn this track. This is going to need some practice. This guide will help you out to shorten that time, but it is a tough one. Basically, I think some people got together and hired a roller coaster designer and said, here, build a racetrack, and here it is. This track is crazy, uphill, downhill. The setup really plays a part here, I think, more so than a lot of other tracks. So um, check this out. I think it is pretty darn good. I do get some dislikes on my guides. It seems to be whenever I have a short stack or whenever I have a low camber setup. So if you're one of those people who are hitting the dislikes, honestly, give this a try. The cambers are significantly lower than what iRacing has them set at. Um, I did try it at the higher camber levels. The car is certainly drivable and actually doesn't feel too bad. However, as soon as I dropped the cambers down, I gained probably about 3/10. So really give it a try. Ride height. Ride height is minus 16 in the front. There are two curbs here that are not particularly nice, and that is why the ride height is where it is, so your car does not get totally thrown off track by hitting those curbs. If you are finding you're running into trouble, you may want to try minus 15 or minus 14 in the front and 1 millimeter less in the rear as well. Just to get over those curbs a little bit easier, but minus 16 I found is doing the job. Damper compression is 20 on a lot of tracks where there is a lot of uphill and downhill um, braking. I do sometimes turn this up. However, I find when you turn this up, you do get more understeer, and understeer on this track is not good at all. Brake bias, 58.5%. You really watch the brake bias on this track. A lot of downhill braking. You have to set this higher. Normally I'm at 57.5%, so I'm 1% up. So you may want to try 1%, even 2% up. I'm not convinced 58.5 is where I'm going to finish. I'm thinking I might try 59%. So yeah, watch out for your brake bias. Spring rates in the front, low as they go, 22 Newton meters, and everyone will cheer. It is a symmetrical setup. Cambers, toes, everything's the same on both sides. So minus 1.2 in the front for camber, and again, I think iRacing had that at 1.8 or 9, I think, through their setup. Significantly lower, and I found immediately faster. Toe in is turned up 1.5. I think this is the most toe in I've ever had. This is turned up as high as it is to get that turn in increased. You do need a lot of turn in on this track. Downhill turns do not turn in very well. That just invokes a lot of understeer, and so you really need to get the car turning in. And as well, this helps increase braking efficiency because the brake bias is turned up quite high. Now, this is really important. Spring rate in the rear is not as low as it goes. 44 Newton meters. I think 38 or something is the lowest. I'm not sure what that is in Imperial. However, it's one click up from the lowest. And that's really important to get the car rotating and turning on this track. This You could have this as soft as it goes and increase the ARB to 20 millimeters. However, changing this to be not quite as soft as it goes, I find is kind of a halfway mark. Um, so think of it like having an ARB of 17 with the rear suspension not as soft as it goes. That's where I found it to be faster. Camber in the rear, zero point 0.9 minus 0.9. Yep, found that to work pretty darn good. Toe in plus 0.4 in the rear, and again that's turned up pretty high for me. Again, just to improve braking efficiency, because there are some nasty braking zones. Ride height minus 15 in the rear, 1 mil higher than the front, just to keep the rake at a good proportion. ARB is 15 mils. I know some people out there aren't a big fan of having the ARB turned up. You have to have it turned up. You have to rotate the car around this track. You do need to be able to turn and really get the car around these corners that are downhill. 15 is, you need it. Try 10 if you're struggling, if you're learning this track, but 15 is going to get you around quicker. Damper compression 16 and or 6 and 8, that's left the same. Gear stack standard. Standard I found is the fastest. Short is quick. It does feel good. However, you get eaten up in the straight, in the big straight. Yeah, and standard, honestly, it feels pretty darn good anyway. Fuel levels. I've been doing the practicing at 13 liters. I think 13 liters, well, 13 liters is going to get you to the end for sure. I think 12 might actually do it in a race. I don't know if the lap times in a race are going to be anyone's personal best. This is a very tight track. If battling for position and all that kind of stuff is really going to slow down lap times. Check it out in a practice session. See if you can get 20 minutes worth of laps in with 12 liters. I'm probably going to go with 13 for the first race, but I think 12 is going to be probably enough to get you through. So track is 22 degrees. Practice sessions have been 20, 24. So in the middle, track usage is 36%. So not fantastic. And one thing to talk about here, two things to talk about here. Graphics. This is a new track. There are portions of this track where you will see other parts of the track and other cars on the track. This is hard on performance. I had to turn off HDR. I had to reduce the MSAA in half, and the anti-aliasing, whatever that word is, I cut that in half as well. So just watch out if your performance is dropping. You are not the only one. This is a little bit hard on VR, which I normally race in. And the other thing is this track is an absolute savage on X's. Oulton Park thinks this track is ridiculous for X's. If you get over the white line, it's probably an X. You can get on the red and white curbs, that's okay. If you get on the grasscrete in front of the red and white curbs, or on the grasscrete after the red and white curbs, you're going to get an X. So watch out, especially with your quali laps. Quali is going to be so important here. However, it is so easy to get an X, so do watch out for that. So we'll go through the corners in slow-mo and then run it out at full speed. So coming into turn 1 here, looking for the bridge, going to turn in fourth gear. Turn in at the bridge. Now, when the tires are cold, you're going to want to lift here. When the tires are really hot and you're getting low on fuel, you can actually do this in full speed. I did lift here. This cost me some time, not a lot of time, but a little bit of time. It just is important that you don't slide wide here, too wide. You have to get onto the curbs there, and you have to get over to the left side of this track to open up the next corner in order to keep it as fast as possible and not going off track. And again, just lifting at the crest of the hill here, or as you approach the crest of the hill, getting right up tight against those curbs and just rolling in, just managing the throttle. This is very tricky. This left-hand side comes at you very fast, a lot faster than you think. This track is much more narrow than a lot of other tracks, so it can catch you out. As you're coming up the hill and your RPMs are dropping, shifting down into third. Again, this is just going to take practice managing the throttle to figure out how much you can do before you're going to go off track. And it is important, however, to get right up as far as you dare to the left-hand side. If you just graze the grass, you're okay. But if you certainly put a tire or half a tire onto the grass, you're going to get an X, and you're probably going to spin out and die. So as close to that white line as you dare, and then just picking up the throttle again. Just managing it though, same thing coming up here is if you come in here too hot, that track is just, you're going to come at the edge of the track so fast. And it's a double apex, just getting up tight against the red and white curb there, unwinding the wheel, picking up the full throttle as early as possible because this is a big straight, the big passing opportunity. Use the red and white curb here, but do not touch that grass crate. So fourth gear, looking at the one board, in real time it looks like I'm braking just past it. In slow motion it's obviously at it. Down into second gear, very hard on the brakes. Watch this corner. This one for some reason catches me out on first lap. Cold tires, cold brakes. You're probably going to want to brake a car length sooner. Just this one seems to catch out quite a bit. Hard on the brakes, releasing the brakes as you turn in, getting right up tight. I could have been tighter onto the red and white curb there, and then just picking up the throttle. Again, don't necessarily just stomp on it. You have to be able to judge keeping your car on track. Right up to the white line, use that red and white curb, and then shifting up into third as you come around the bend here, but just a little bit of a lift. Just to get the car turned in, very small lift, and then picking up the throttle again, quickly as possible, unwinding the wheel, and then working up into fourth eventually. Now, as you come around the bend here, just lifting, just a little bit of a lift in fourth gear. Rewind that, I kind of missed that. So coming down the hill, just starting to lift, just to get the car a little balanced here. Shifting down into third as you approach the change in color and pavement here, and keeping it really right up tight against the red and white curb. Just letting the car roll in, managing the throttle, a little bit of throttle to keep that back end happy, and then aiming for these pylons, sort of. It just takes a little practice and feel. Do not get into the green stuff here. I don't even know if there's an X because every time I hit it I crashed. So do not get into that green stuff. Get onto the red and white though. You do have to cut this corner, and then just picking up the throttle there early as possible and unwinding the wheel, and again making use of the red and white curb there on exit. This next one, respect this corner. It seems pretty simple, but it is trickier than it looks. Looking for the change in color of the pavement, and there's a dip here, and there's no real good markers except for this. If there's a car in front of you, this is going to be hard to judge, so this is just going to take some practice. But basically you're going to brake in the middle between the change in color and that dip. And yeah, third gear, shifting down into second, hard on the brakes, and you have to be hard on the brakes down here. This is going to test your brake bias. And then releasing the brakes and turning the wheel. If you're still braking hard, if you brake too late, you're going to spin out here. Watch out for that. Getting onto the red and white curb, and then just picking up the throttle gingerly. Yeah, most of these corners you don't want to step on it on exit. You have to ease the throttle on, make use of the red and white curb there, no touch the grass crete. Another very tricky one, looking for the change in pavement color again here. Hopefully you can all see that on your setups. Shifting, well, hard on the brakes, shifting down into second, very hard on the brakes, do not come in here too hot, and then at the end of the barrier here, releasing the brakes and turning in. Yeah, you got to be off the brakes as you roll into this corner, otherwise you're going to spin out. Getting onto the red and white curb, tight up against this last pylon to open up the next corner. Just managing the throttle, keeping some weight on the rear end, and then this first sausage curb here that the ride height is set for. get on this, don't go over it, but get on it, just managing the throttle and then picking it up. You can use all the red and white here. However, watch the wheel. This is like Lime Rock. You're going to catch some air there. You have to have that wheel straight. Watch out if it is turned. You are going to be your car is going to be dancing across the track. So shifting up into third, just for a short time, then lifting, letting the car roll in, just managing the throttle onto the red and white, and then just past this, shifting down into second, again managing the throttle, getting on the red and white, and then lining up the next pylons, lining up your right hand tire for the red and white curb. Watch how fast you are in this section. You do not want to get tail happy through here. You will lose so much time and probably die. So watch out for that. Looking for this last pylon, just managing the throttle, not trying to spin the car. And just before the last pylon, shifting down into first gear. You can't get any more left than what I am right now without getting that X. Very hard on the brakes. First gear is as far over to the left as you can, and then turning in as you come onto this section here with the pavement past the white line. Turning in very hard on the brakes, releasing the brakes, getting that front end loaded up so you can turn in, and then just picking up the throttle and using all of the red and white on exit, and then shifting up into second, and don't hit the grass creek past this the red and white curb. You think you can, but you can't. Get onto the pavement. So shifting up into second just for a short time, or well, just a little bit of a short shift. Looking for the orange marker on the barrier here, turning in and just releasing the throttle, just lifting a bit, letting the car roll in, getting onto the red and white, and then easing on the throttle. If you stomp on it, you are going to push wide. Best case scenario, worst case scenario, you're going to spin out. So just easing on the throttle and making use of all of the track on exit. And voila, 128 flat. So yeah, into turn one I did lift too much. That cost me some of the time from my optimal time. Definitely the really alien drivers are going to be getting into the 127s, but in a race I don't know how much that is going to happen. People battling, this is such a tight track. So I think lap times are not going to be probably near what personal best times are. So that's where the 12 liters may come into play as well. Quali is so important, and I think quali may be a little bit of a mix-up. Definitely, I think people will get caught out on their quali laps getting an X here. It's so easy to do. So yeah, there could be some interesting starting lineups, that's for sure. So good luck. We'll see you out there. We'll see you next time. We'll run this out at full speed.